In this video, I want to talk about the importance of setting boundaries, how to do that, and kind of what that looks like. Setting boundaries helps you create healthy relationships, and it protects your inner mental peace by refusing to allow toxic behavior or behavior that you don't like, that you don't want to be around, that you don't want to be a part of. That's what setting those boundaries looks like. Setting boundaries also gives you that inner mental strength that you need, and that kind of ties into that resilience aspect as well. When I get further and further into these types of analyses, you'll often hear me talk about how my family was growing up, their kind of mental state, their beliefs, and what they tried to instill in me. And not all of it was negative, but there were definitely some stuff that I inherited from past trauma that I am trying to work through to better myself and the coming generations and my kids' generation and their kids' generation, if I ever have kids, to help them become better, a better version of themselves, a better version of my family, a better version of giving them a better version of my childhood, and not letting them go through the experiences that I went through. These boundaries can look like telling someone that they don't like a name that you call them. I actually had this experience last week where there is a section at my work that I do very well in, and I took on this kind of nickname, Topher the Loafer, because it rhymes with my name, and because the section is bread, and that was kind of like, you do a great job in that, so you're Topher the Loafer, that's your section, you're always there, and that's your strongest section in the store. And what I started noticing with these nicknames is that people started making passive-aggressive comments about my work ethic. And at first, it didn't bother me. And then I went through kind of an awakening where I reinvented myself at my workplace and changed up my values, changed up how I worked, and really changed my attitude about how I contribute and what I contribute. I was always looking for external validation because of the way that things that my stepfather did to me when I was young, in terms of chores, because I was always criticized. Everything I did was never enough, or wasn't good enough. I had to be perfect. And this kind of ties into the way that my dad parents me, tries to parent me as well. But it's not as excessive. And when I had confronted this coworker, I knew, I felt a lot better about myself, and I felt a lot empowered that I could come up and set that boundary with her. And she took it very well, and we moved on. That's kind of an example of setting those boundaries, and you may come into situations where, if you live under your parents' roof, or, you rely on your parents in some sort of way, that may not always be the option. The best option, at least. Which is why, if you're ever experiencing that, what I did before we had that whole outburst was I started a diary entry on my phone, my voice memos, and I would update to it. I had actually started it back when I was a junior in high school, after an incident with people that I was hanging around with. Then again, 3-4 years ago, I thought my life was over. And it was just stupid. It was really nothing looking back now, but it taught me a lot about, my worth, and pleasing people doesn't get you anywhere. And if anything, pleasing people may give you short-term success, but in the long term, you're not learning anything. That people-pleasing idea really kind of goes hand in hand with that whole setting boundaries thing, because sometimes, you just want to keep the peace. I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to keep the peace, but that was at the expense of my mental health, and I knew that I couldn't handle it any longer. Especially when you have parents who tend to invalidate your expression, invalidate your feelings, tell you that if you're under my roof, it has to be my way or the highway. A lot of control issues and power struggles throughout my childhood really left me with this kind of sense that I can't really trust my family. I can't trust my mother. I can't trust my siblings. I can't even trust my father, if I'm being honest with you. And it's hard, and I'm working through it, and I know that's not a very good thing to say, and I know it's not the best positive thing to say, but I'm going to be honest, because it's just how I feel. And I want to reach out to those people who are on my boat, that same boat. Nothing lasts forever, and you need to protect yourself, protect your mental health. You come first. You need to put yourself first. I never did that. And now what I'm doing is putting my feelings, my expression, how I feel, and my emotions first. Aside from whatever the fuck anyone thinks about that, I don't care. And I'm entering this kind of new phase where I just don't care what people think. And that's what you need to do too. And that's where you get the most success, by embracing your true path, your true colors, your shadow side, and your authenticity. Authenticity, rather. And yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of life. And you can't let people stifle your self-expression. Yeah. So I'm going to end it here. I have some planning to do. Again, I'm in the early stages of this, so I will probably learn how to edit these videos later on, but I hope you enjoy this, even if you're watching this now, if you're watching this tomorrow, if you're watching this 10 years from now. Who knows? You may never watch this. This may be just something that I keep to reflect on my own life. I don't know. But everything will work out. Everything is fine. Everything happens for a reason. And do not lose hope. Never lose hope.